All right, we have another simple integration here. Well, simple somewhat. So we have the square root, e to the square root of x plus 2 over the square root of 8x plus 16 dx. So I heard a lot of discussion in class about how to do this one and what to choose to be your u. So hopefully it's obvious that we are going to need to use u substitution. But how do you choose what you want u to be? So some people were telling me they chose down here what was in the bottom. So they chose 8x plus 16, took the derivative and it was 8 and it didn't help them get rid of much. Then some people chose the square root of 8x plus 16, realized that it was going to leave you with another square root, didn't help them much. Then some people just chose x plus 2, took the derivative and it was 1, didn't help them much. So people were a little stuck on what to choose to be u. And I understand that I told you to choose what's inside of the grouping symbols, but here we kind of have many grouping symbols and you're not exactly sure which to choose. So one way that maybe it would be a little hint is to kind of look at your answer choices and look at what keeps coming up in your answer choices and what a common theme is in your answer choices, because that might give you a little lead about what you should choose to be u. And here's what I mean by that. I want you to notice that all of our answer choices have this in them. So if they all have that, that should kind of be a dead giveaway that that's probably u, because at the end, when you substitute u back into the equation, you end up with that in your answer. And so because they all have that, let's try and make that our u, because that'll probably be the easiest way to get a solution and probably the correct way to get a solution for that matter. So let me just take a picture of the work I did over here so that I don't have to write it all out again and we can look together. All right, so looking at this, let me try and make sure it's big enough that we can see it all. That's okay, we'll just cut that part out. All right, so here we go. So we can't see our answer choices, but that's okay because I have it down here in the corner. So again, I say we make our u equal to the square root of x plus 2 because all of our answer choices had that in there. And then so I highlighted it here so you guys can see that's kind of what we're substituting. So u equals the square root of x plus 2. If I take the derivative of that, du, it's the chain rule kind of. The inside will end up having a derivative of 1, but technically it's still the chain rule. So remember that we can rewrite this, and I'll do it just so that you guys can see this. Some of you guys like to rewrite it like this, x plus 2 to the 1/2. So if I take the derivative of the outside, I get 1/2 times x plus 2 to the negative 1/2, which is what I wrote here. And then notice that the derivative of the inside is just 1, so I don't have to necessarily multiply by that. So I look over here, and it still doesn't perfectly match up, so we're going to have to make a few more adjustments. So first of all, let's start off by noticing that there is no 1/2 over here, and so I'm not going to need this 1/2. So instead of keeping this here, let's multiply it over to the other side, and that's where I got this 2 du from. Then next, I have x plus 2 to the negative 1/2, and I'm just going to rewrite that as 1 over the square root of x plus 2 so that I can get rid of that negative exponent. So I have 1 over the square root of x plus 2 dx. Now again, at this point, so if you guys look at where this little green finger is pointing, at this point I don't have something that looks exactly like that, so I need to adjust this a little bit more and kind of make some changes to this. I hope you realize that 8x plus 16 has a common factor in it, so if you factor out an 8 from that, you have the square root of 8 times the square root of x plus 2. And now all of a sudden I have this x plus 2 that matches up with this one. Remember how I told you to be very careful, however, that when you do this, that the things are on the right level. So notice that dx is on the top level, it's being multiplied, same thing here. Notice that the square root of x plus 2 is on the bottom level, and it's a good thing that this one is too, so that they would actually match up. If they don't match up, that's when you know that you have a problem. So the fact that they match up is great, and that green part will replace this entire green part. So watch closely how I got from here to the next part. This 2 from 2 du, I pulled out front, that's where this 2 came from. And so that 2 is this 2. Okay, that's where that came from. I just pulled it out of the integral. This 1 over the square root of 8, I went ahead and pulled out of the integral as well. So that's where this one came from. So just in case you're wondering where these two numbers came from, that's where. The 2 here, when I replaced it with the dx over the square root of x plus 2, came there. And then the 1 over root 8 I just pulled out here. Okay, so hopefully... So once we do all these substitutions, we can take out the 2, we can take out the 1 over root 8, and now this becomes the du that's left inside, that's where that's from, and then e to the power of u, that's where that comes from. So this whole problem that was kind of very confusing and lengthy became this. From here, the integral of e to the u is e to the u, because the derivative of e to the u is e to the u. So the integral is itself, And then over here we have 2 over, and then I just rewrote the square root of 8 as 2 root 2. So I simplified it to be 2 root 2. Notice that those 2's cancel, so now I have 1 over root 2, which is where I got this from. And then e to the u, I just plugged u back in. So I put back in the square root of x plus 2, which is how I got this. Now I looked at my answer choices, and this one wasn't exactly there, so I realized that they just rationalized the denominator on this one. So if you rationalize the denominator, you get root 2 over 2, which is where I got this, e to the square root of x plus 2 plus c, which is answer choice E.